Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking HTML, an audio-video internet thing for web developers who are just starting out. I am your host, Tom Norman, and this is episode number 13. Today I'm going to do a brief demonstration on how to create a basic CSS drop-down menu. Code will be attached to my show notes, so as you're listening to this in podcast form, you should be able to look at that as I go through it. And what I'm going to do, share my screen. Let's just do the whole thing. All right. And I am doing my code right now in Notepad++. That's my text editor of choice right now. And I'm going to start out with the HTML portion. So right here, as you can see, I have my basic navigation, and I'm using HTML5 stats. This is nav with an ID of nav, which is a little redundant. But since this is coming from my regular website, I tend to use, when I'm messing around, I tend to use multiple navigations. So if I use nav, I believe with my mobile navigation, I have nav2 or something, or mobile nav or whatever. So this is just, it may seem redundant here, but because I use multiple navigations, it just kind of makes sense. Then here I have my unordered list with my LIs. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And the big thing in creating a drop-down menu is the unordered list wrapped in a list item. This here is a case as to why you want to have indentation for your code. I have a list item with the anchor of the podcast, and then before I actually close out that list item, I insert another unordered list. So it goes li anchor the podcast, unordered list. Notice there's no closing li. Unordered list ID equals pod links. Then I have two more list items, li anchor href equals address blah blah blah. Close up that li. Open up another li with my other link, Talking HTML. That's my website for the podcast. Close out that list item. Close up my unordered list, and then I close up my list item that it's nested under. And here, as you can see, list item, unordered list item, indented so you can fully read the code in a proper form. Then I close out my unordered list, and I close out my navigation. So this is basic navigation right here. The important aspect of the CSS is going to be having position, relative on your LIs. That way, when you do a position, let's see if I can pull it up here. When you have pod links, it'll be position relative to that. You are able to distinguish and align those list items when it drops down. Now, when you have your list item, like my second unordered list, my drop-down menu is labeled pod links. POD LINKS, pod links. And it is position absolute. The basic unordered list is position absolute. And when you are not showing that unordered list, when you're not showing those navigation buttons, it will be a display none. Display none keeps it hidden. It will keep it off of the page. It will not show, it will not mess up your positioning, it will not mess up anything. Now, here I have UL pod links li. So this is just my basic styling of my list item or my items for that unordered list. The important part to show your drop-down menu is going to be hover focus. So UL podlinks li hover and UL podlinks li focus. That's going to be those should always go together when you're creating your CSS. When you're creating your any type of hover state, you want to have those together. And then here I also have current, li current. So in hover and focus, it will turn in to display block. And when you change it from display none to display block, that will make the unordered list appear as if it is a drop-down menu, as if it is coming from the list item, the li that it is attached to. So here, when we do display block, when it shows up, talking 1265 and talking HTML will appear under the li, the podcast. And here I have a brief example. This is what it looks like on the right-hand side here, as you can see. So we have home, portfolio, hire me, the podcast. When I hover over the podcast, the two menu items, talking 1265 and talking HTML, drop down underneath the podcast. It's a little off center, but that's just the way I put it. If you want to center it, you'll have to tweak your positioning, so left, right, up, down, however it is that you want it to appear. So once again, the important aspects of a drop-down menu is nesting your unordered list under the list item, or the li, that you want it to be. So here I have two links under the podcast, and you close out the main menu item. You close that out after the nested unordered list. That is very important. If you do not do that properly, it can really mess up your menu in general. So you want to be sure that that's nested and closed properly. To keep your unordered, or to keep your menu hidden, your drop-down menu hidden, you say display none underneath your unordered list. So UL, whatever your ID or class is, display none. That will keep it hidden. That will keep it hidden on your web page. And then to show that unordered list, or to show that menu, you have the hover display block. And that will make it appear. And then your styling, of course, is all up to you based on what your website looks like and how you want it positioned. And you can do this for each individual, or for each individual menu item. So I could essentially copy and paste this unordered list and attach it to each one of these items, each one of these menu items, and it would show up. And like I said, the show notes are going to be attached to the show notes are going to be attached to my episode here. So be sure to look at those. And that is just going to be about it for today's episode. If you have any questions, or if you want me to go into this more in depth, let me know, and I can do a second, maybe an interactive episode of talking HTML. And this is just going to be about it for today's show. I hope you guys enjoy listening to it and following along. If you do, tell your friends. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is you get your podcasts, rate it. Ratings get me listeners, please. I would love to have some more listeners. I would love to have some interaction as well. I haven't been asking for questions, generally speaking. But if you do have any questions, just about anything at all, about beginning web development, web design, web whatever, please feel free to let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at TNPW Design, or my personal account is at Tom M. Norman. Go to www.webdevpod.com for all of my content and links. Get hosting. If you don't host your own website, if you are just starting out and you don't know how to start, go to DreamHost, dreamhost.com. Use the promo code TNPW. Get 10% off 1 year, 10% off 2 years, and start creating. That's going to be the best and easiest way to get your knowledge on, get your learn on. Build your own website. And with that, I once again have been your host, Tom Norman. Have a great night.